The rain was coming down like God's own middle finger, and I was walking home from another soul-crushing day of selling office supplies to people who'd rather buy them online. My name's Mark Thompson. I'm 38 years old, and if my life were a movie, it'd be one of those direct-to-streaming disasters that nobody watches. I was about 3 blocks from my house when she appeared. Your wife is sleeping with my husband. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The woman who said this was standing under a bus stop awning, holding her phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. She was maybe 35, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing jeans and a rain jacket that had seen better decades. Her name, I'd learn later, was Lisa Crawford. I'm sorry, what? I stopped walking, rain immediately soaking through my cheap suit jacket. Emily Thompson. That's your wife, right? Works at Pinnacle Marketing? Lisa held up her phone. She's been screwing my husband for 3 months. I've got video. The world tilted sideways. Emily, my wife of 12 years, the mother of my 2 kids, the woman who'd been working late every Tuesday and Thursday for the past few months. You're insane, I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. Lisa tapped her phone screen and turned it toward me. The video was grainy, shot through what looked like a hotel window, but the figures were unmistakable. Emily's long dark hair, her laugh that I hadn't heard directed at me in years, and some guy I didn't recognize, tall and well-dressed, his hands all over my wife. That's Darren Crawford, Lisa said, her voice flat. My husband. He owns 3 car dealerships and thinks he's God's gift to married women. I stared at the phone until Lisa pulled it away. The rain kept falling, but I couldn't feel it anymore. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Lisa smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. Because I know how to make them pay for it. Question is, do you want to help? I should have walked away. Should have gone home, confronted Emily like a rational adult, maybe suggested marriage counseling. Should have been the bigger person. Instead, I heard myself say, "What did you have in mind?" Lisa's plan started simple enough. We met the next evening at a diner on the east side of town, the kind of place where the coffee tastes like it was filtered through an old sock, and the pie comes with a side of food poisoning. First thing you need to understand, Lisa said, stirring sugar into her coffee, is that they think they're smarter than us. Darren's been cheating for years, but he's gotten sloppy, arrogant. How long have you known? I asked. About Emily specifically? 2 weeks? About the others? She shrugged. I stopped counting after number 4. I felt sick. Others? Oh, honey. Lisa's voice carried a mix of pity and amusement. Emily's not special. She's just the latest model. Over the next hour, Lisa laid out what she'd discovered. Hotel receipts charged to Darren's business account. Text messages she'd recovered from his phone. Photos from Emily's social media that showed her wearing jewelry I'd never seen before. The thing is, Lisa continued, I could just divorce him, take half his assets and move on. But that's not enough anymore. I want them humiliated. I want everyone to know what kind of people they really are. What are you suggesting? Lisa leaned forward. I'm suggesting we give them a taste of their own medicine. Make them famous for all the wrong reasons. She pulled out a notebook filled with her neat handwriting, names, dates, locations. She'd been planning this like a military campaign. Your wife thinks she's some hotshot marketing executive, right? Always posting about her authentic life and living her best self on Instagram? I nodded. Emily had over 3,000 followers and posted constantly about our perfect family and her career success. Well, Lisa said, let's see how authentic she looks when everyone knows the truth. The plan she outlined was elegant in its simplicity. We'd gather evidence, real evidence, not just the hotel video. We'd document their affair, their lies, their hypocrisy, and then we'd make it public in a way that would destroy both their reputations and their careers. "I've got connections at the local newspaper," Lisa said, "and Darren's got enemies in the business community, people who'd love to see him taken down a peg." "This could backfire," I said. "Emily could take the kids, clean me out in a divorce." "She's going to do that anyway," Lisa replied. "At least this way she won't be able to play the victim." I stared at my untouched coffee, thinking about Emily's cold shoulder the night before, the way she'd barely looked up from her phone when I'd tried to tell her about my day. "What do you need me to do?" Lisa smiled that predatory smile again. "Leave that to me. For now, just act normal. Don't let on that you know anything. Can you do that?" I thought about 12 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a wife who was screwing around with some car dealer while I sold staplers to office managers. "Yeah," I said. "I can do that." Acting normal turned out to be easier than I'd expected, mainly because Emily barely noticed I existed anyway. She came home late Tuesday night with some story about a client dinner, kissed me on the cheek like I was her brother, and went straight to bed. Thursday morning, she was gone before I woke up, leaving only a note saying she'd be working late again. I called in sick to work and met Lisa at a coffee shop downtown. "I've been busy," she said, sliding a manila folder across the table. "Take a look." The folder contained printouts of text messages, credit card statements, and photos. The texts were the worst part. Emily and Darren discussing their meetings, making jokes about their spouses, planning their next encounter. One message from Emily made my stomach turn. "Mark's so clueless. I could probably bring you home for dinner and he wouldn't notice." "How did you get these?" I asked. "Darren's not as tech-savvy as he thinks," Lisa said. "He backs up his phone to a cloud account that he forgot to change the password on. As for the credit card statements, well, let's just say I still get copies of everything." She pulled out another set of photos. "These are from last Tuesday, the Marriott downtown, room 412. The photos showed Emily and Darren entering and leaving the hotel, taken from across the street with a telephoto lens. "You followed them?" "I hired someone to follow them," Lisa corrected. "A private investigator. Everything's documented, dated, and admissible in court if it comes to that." I flipped through the evidence, feeling a strange mix of rage and relief. Rage at the betrayal, relief that I wasn't going crazy, that the distance I'd felt from Emily wasn't just my imagination. "What's the next step?" I asked. Lisa leaned back in her chair. "Now we start applying pressure. Nothing dramatic, just little things to make them nervous. Let them know they're not as invisible as they think." She outlined her plan. I would start asking Emily innocent questions about her work, her schedule, her new jewelry. Meanwhile, Lisa would do the same with Darren, mentioning that she'd heard rumors about his business dealings, asking about charges on their credit card. "The goal is to make them paranoid," Lisa explained. "Paranoid people make mistakes. And then we spring the trap." That evening, I put Lisa's advice into practice. When Emily came home at 9:30, claiming she'd been in meetings all day, I casually mentioned that I'd called her office around lunch and been told she was out. "Oh, that," Emily said, not missing a beat. "I had a client lunch that ran long. You know how it is." "Must have been some lunch," I said. 5 hours?" For just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear. But then she smiled that practiced smile she used on difficult clients. "Actually, we went to look at a potential venue for their product launch. It's a big account, Mark. Could mean a promotion for me." She kissed me on the forehead and headed upstairs. "I'm exhausted. Don't wait up." I sat in the living room until midnight, scrolling through Emily's Instagram posts. Her latest showed a photo of her dinner from that night, some fancy restaurant downtown. The timestamp showed 7:30 p.m., which meant she'd been somewhere else for most of the day. I took a screenshot and texted it to Lisa. Her response came back immediately. Got him rattled, too. He's starting to ask questions about my schedule. Phase 2 starts tomorrow. I poured myself a drink and stared at the photo of my wife's dinner. In 12 years of marriage, she'd never taken me to a restaurant that nice. Phase 2 of Lisa's plan involved what she called strategic visibility. We started showing up in places where Emily and Darren might see us, always separately, always with plausible reasons for being there. I began working out at the gym near Darren's main dealership. It was a nicer place than my usual spot, but I told Emily I'd gotten a deal on a membership. What I didn't tell her was that Lisa had done research on Darren's routine and knew he played racquetball there every Monday and Wednesday. The first time I saw him, I was on the treadmill when he walked past in his expensive workout gear, talking loudly on his phone about some business deal. He was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, tan, silver hair, perfectly styled even for the gym. The kind of guy who probably had his teeth professionally whitened and drove a different luxury car every day of the week. I didn't approach him that first day, just made sure he saw me. The next Wednesday, I timed my workout to coincide with his racquetball game. When he came out of the court, sweating and laughing with his partner, I was at the water fountain. "Excuse me," I said as he walked by. He stopped, looking at me with the mild irritation of someone who's used to being important. "Yeah? You're Darren Crawford, right? From Crawford Automotive?" His expression shifted to his professional smile. "That's right. How can I help you?" "I'm Mark Thompson. I think you know my wife, Emily? She works at Pinnacle Marketing." I watched his face carefully. For just a split second, his smile faltered. Then it was back, bright and fake as a $3 bill. "Emily Thompson, sure. Great gal. Pinnacle does some work for us." "Yeah, she's mentioned you," I said, letting the words hang in the air. "Says you're a real hands-on kind of client." Darren's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, I like to be involved in my advertising campaigns. Attention to detail, you know?" "Oh, I know," I said. "Emily's been putting in a lot of extra hours on your account. Nights, weekends, really going above and beyond." "She's very dedicated," Darren said, his voice carefully neutral. "That she is." I smiled. "Well, I should let you get back to your workout. Maybe we'll run into each other again." I walked away, leaving him standing by the water fountain. When I glanced back, he was staring after me, his phone already in his hand. Meanwhile, Lisa was working her own angle. She'd started volunteering at the same charity where Emily served on the events committee, claiming a sudden interest in helping underprivileged children. At the first meeting she attended, she made sure to sit near Emily and strike up a conversation. "You look so familiar," Lisa had said, according to her report later that evening. "Don't I know you from somewhere?" Emily, always eager to network, had introduced herself and her role at Pinnacle Marketing. "Oh, that's it," Lisa had exclaimed. "My husband Darren is always talking about that company. He says they do great work." Emily had smiled politely and mentioned that she'd worked on a few automotive accounts. "Well, small world," Lisa had said. "Maybe we should all get together sometime. Double date?" The suggestion had clearly made Emily uncomfortable, but she'd managed to deflect without being rude. "That sounds lovely," Emily had said. "I'll have to check my schedule." "Of course," Lisa had replied. "I know how busy you marketing people are. Darren's always complaining about how his account manager works such long hours." Later that night, Emily had been unusually quiet during dinner. When our daughter asked about her day, Emily just said it had been interesting and changed the subject. I was loading the dishwasher when she finally spoke up. "Mark, have you been going to a new gym?" "Yeah, why?" "Someone at work mentioned seeing you at the athletic club downtown." I kept my voice casual. "Got a good deal on a membership. Why, is that a problem?" "No, of course not. It's just expensive. Are you sure we can afford it?" "It's fine, Em. I'm making decent commission this quarter." She nodded, but I could see her processing this information, trying to figure out the angles. Maybe I should check it out too, she said. I've been thinking about getting back in shape. You're in great shape, I said, and meant it. Whatever else Emily was, she took care of herself. Thanks, but I could use more cardio. All those client dinners are catching up with me. I finished loading the dishwasher and turned to face her. Speaking of client dinners, how's that big automotive account going? The one that's been keeping you so busy? Emily's smile was perfectly practiced. Really well. We're in the final stages of the campaign development. Should wrap up soon. That's great. Maybe once it's done, we can have a date night. Feels like we haven't had time together in months. I'd like that, she said, and for a moment, she almost sounded like she meant it. But as she headed upstairs, I heard her phone buzz with a text message. She read it quickly, typed a response, and deleted the conversation before putting the phone away. I texted Lisa. They're getting nervous. What's next? Her response came back within minutes. Time to turn up the heat. Lisa's idea of turning up the heat involved what she called the nuclear option, a direct confrontation designed to force Emily and Darren into making a crucial mistake. Here's what's going to happen, she explained over coffee the next morning. You're going to tell Emily that you want to take her out to celebrate your anniversary early. Somewhere nice, somewhere public. The Riverside Grill. The Riverside Grill was the fanciest restaurant in town, the kind of place where city council members took their mistresses and business deals were sealed over $100 bottles of wine. Why there? Because that's where Darren takes all his conquests. If Emily's been there with him, she'll react. If she hasn't, she'll be curious why you suddenly want to spend that kind of money. Our anniversary isn't for 3 months. Exactly. That's what will make her suspicious. Lisa's plan was more elaborate than just dinner. She'd reserved a table at the same restaurant for the same night, claiming she wanted to surprise Darren with a romantic evening. The goal was to create a situation where all 4 of us would be in the same place, forcing Emily and Darren to either acknowledge each other or pretend to be strangers. Either way, we learn something, Lisa said, and either way, they'll be rattled. That evening, I put the plan into motion. I was thinking, I said, as she walked through the door, still in her work clothes. We should celebrate. Celebrate what? Us. Our marriage. I know things have been distant lately. I thought maybe we could have a nice dinner out, just the 2 of us. Emily set down her purse and looked at me with something that might have been suspicion. That's sweet, Mark, but things are really crazy at work right now. Maybe in a few weeks? I already made reservations, I said. Tomorrow night, the Riverside Grill. The reaction was immediate and unmistakable. Emily's face went pale, then flushed red. The Riverside Grill? Mark, that place is incredibly expensive. I know, but you're worth it. She was quiet for a long moment, clearly trying to figure out how to get out of this without raising more suspicions. Tomorrow's not good, she said finally. I have a client presentation first thing Friday morning. I need to prepare. Then we'll make it an early dinner. 6 o'clock? You'll be home by 8. Emily opened her mouth to object again, then seemed to realize that any more resistance would seem strange. Okay, she said. That sounds nice. But her smile was strained, and she spent the rest of the evening on her phone, texting furiously. The next day crawled by. I couldn't concentrate on work, couldn't eat lunch, couldn't think about anything except what was going to happen at dinner. Lisa texted me twice to confirm the plan was still on, and both times I assured her it was. At 5:30, I put on my best suit and picked up Emily at her office. She looked beautiful in a black dress I'd never seen before, her makeup perfect, her hair styled in a way that must have taken an hour. You look amazing, I said as she got in the car. Thank you. She was checking her phone again. Mark, are you sure about this restaurant? It's really not necessary. I want to do something special for you, I said. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve to be treated well. Emily looked out the window as we drove through downtown. Things might get less hectic soon, she said quietly. The automotive account is wrapping up. That's great. Maybe we can take a vacation, just the two of us. She didn't respond. The Riverside Grill was everything I'd expected. White tablecloths, soft lighting, waiters in bow ties who called you sir and meant it. The hostess led us to a table by the window with a view of the river. Emily was nervous, I could tell. She kept glancing around the restaurant, her hands fidgeting with her napkin. This is lovely, she said, but her voice was tight. We ordered drinks and appetizers, making small talk about work and the kids. Emily was trying to act normal, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept checking the entrance. At 6:45, Darren Crawford walked in with Lisa. I saw Emily freeze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. Darren spotted us immediately. We were hard to miss by the window, and I watched his face go through a series of expressions: surprise, panic, and then a forced calm. Lisa, playing her part perfectly, was animated and happy, clearly excited about their romantic dinner. She was talking and laughing, completely oblivious to the other couple in the restaurant. "Emily," I said, "you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," she said, but she was staring at Darren's table. "It's just, I think that's one of my clients over there." "Really? Which one?" "The man in the gray suit. Darren Crawford. He owns some car dealerships." "Should we go say hello?" "No." The word came out sharper than she'd intended. "I mean, he's with his wife. We shouldn't interrupt." I pretended to study Darren's table. "He looks familiar. Have I met him before?" "I don't think so." "Huh. Well, maybe we'll run into him on the way out." Emily spent the rest of dinner stealing glances at Darren's table while trying to pretend she wasn't. Darren, meanwhile, was clearly struggling to pay attention to Lisa, who was doing an Oscar-worthy performance as the devoted wife. When our entrees arrived, Emily barely touched her food. "You sure you're okay?" I asked. "Just not as hungry as I thought. We could get it to go, have dessert at home." "Actually, that sounds perfect." I signaled for the check, and Emily practically jumped up from the table. As we walked toward the exit, we had to pass Darren and Lisa's table. "Emily!" Lisa called out, as if she'd just noticed us. "What a coincidence!" Emily had no choice but to stop. "Hi, Lisa. This is my husband, Mark." "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking Lisa's hand. Then I turned to Darren. "And you must be the famous Darren Crawford. I've heard so much about you." Darren stood and shook my hand, his grip a little too firm. "All good things, I hope." "Oh, definitely. Emily's always talking about what a hands-on client you are." The words hung in the air like smoke. Emily's face was red, Lisa was smiling innocently, and Darren looked like he wanted to disappear. "Well," Emily said quickly, "we should let you get back to your dinner." "Of course," Lisa said, "but we should definitely get together soon, all four of us." "That would be lovely," Emily said, already backing toward the exit. In the car, Emily was silent until we were halfway home. "That was awkward," she said finally. "Was it? They seemed nice." "It's just weird, running into clients outside of work. I thought you said you'd worked with him before. Shouldn't you be used to it by now?" Emily stared out the window. "It's complicated." "How so?" She was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. "Mark," she said finally, "there's something I need to tell you." My heart started pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "What's that?" She took a deep breath. I think I want to quit my job." It wasn't what I'd expected her to say. "Why?" "It's just the stress, the long hours, the demanding clients. I'm not happy anymore." We pulled into our driveway, and I turned off the engine. In the darkness of the garage, I couldn't see Emily's face clearly. "What would you do instead?" "I don't know. Maybe freelance consulting, work from home more, spend more time with the kids." "We'd have to cut back on expenses," I said. Maybe sell the house, move somewhere smaller. I know, but maybe that would be good for us. A fresh start. I looked at my wife of 12 years, sitting in the darkness beside me, and realized that everything she was saying sounded like someone who was planning to leave. Emily, I said, are you happy? In our marriage, I mean? The pause before she answered told me everything I needed to know. I think we should go inside, she said. The kids are probably wondering where we are. That night, after Emily had gone to bed, I sat in the living room and texted Lisa. She's planning something. We need to move faster. Lisa's response came back immediately. Tomorrow. It's time to end this. Lisa's plan for ending it was characteristically thorough. She'd spent the morning preparing what she called the presentation, a comprehensive collection of evidence documenting Emily and Darren's affair. I've got hotel receipts, text messages, photos, credit card statements, and witness testimony from 3 different people who've seen them together, she explained as we sat in her car outside Emily's office building, plus the video from the hotel room. Witness testimony? The valet at the Marriott, a waitress at Romano's who served them dinner twice, and the sales clerk at the jewelry store where Darren bought Emily that necklace she's been wearing. I thought about the delicate gold chain Emily had claimed was a gift from her sister. What's the plan? Lisa smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. We're going to give them a choice. Come clean to everyone, their families, their employers, their friends, or we'll do it for them. And if they refuse? Then we make good on the threat. We waited until Emily's lunch break, then followed her to the small cafe where she usually ate. She was alone, picking at a salad while scrolling through her phone. Lisa walked in first, approaching Emily's table with a friendly smile. Emily, what a coincidence. Mind if I sit? Emily looked up, clearly startled. Oh, hi Lisa. I'm actually just finishing up. This won't take long, Lisa said, settling into the chair across from Emily. I wanted to talk to you about my husband. Emily's face went pale. I'm sorry? Darren, my husband, the one you've been sleeping with for the past 3 months. The cafe was small and quiet, and several other diners turned to look at their table. Emily glanced around nervously. I think there's been some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Lisa said, pulling out her phone. Would you like to see the video, or should we start with the text messages? Emily's hands were shaking. Lisa, I don't know what you think you know, but I know you've been meeting my husband at the Marriott downtown every Tuesday and Thursday. I know he bought you that necklace you're wearing for $800 at Tiffany's. I know you told him that your husband is clueless and that you could bring him home for dinner and he wouldn't notice. Emily stood up abruptly, knocking over her water glass. I have to go. Sit down, Lisa said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. We're not finished. Emily sat. Here's what's going to happen, Lisa continued. You're going to tell your husband the truth, tonight, and you're going to resign from your job, and you're going to stay away from my husband. And if I don't? Lisa's smile was razor thin. Then tomorrow morning, copies of everything I have will be delivered to your boss, your husband, your children's school, and every single person on your social media friends list. I'll also be sending copies to the local newspaper, since Darren's something of a public figure. Emily was crying now, quiet tears that she kept trying to wipe away. You can't do this, she whispered. I can, and I will, Lisa said. The only question is whether you want to control the narrative or let me do it for you. She stood up and dropped a manila envelope on the table. That's a copy of everything, so you know I'm not bluffing. You have until tomorrow morning to make your choice. Lisa walked out of the cafe, leaving Emily alone with the envelope and her tears. I waited 5 minutes, then went inside. Emily was still sitting at the same table, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Em? What are you doing here? She looked up at me with red eyes and a face full of guilt and fear. Mark, she said, and her voice broke on my name. What's wrong? What happened? She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. I need to tell you something, she said finally. Something terrible. I sat down across from her, in the same chair Lisa had occupied minutes before. Okay, I said. Tell me. And she did. All of it. The affair, the lies, the plans to leave me. She cried through most of it, stopping frequently to apologize, to explain, to justify. I sat and listened and nodded and tried to look appropriately shocked and hurt. When she finished, we sat in silence for a long moment. I'm sorry, she said finally. I'm so sorry. Why? I asked. Why him? Why now? Emily wiped her eyes with a napkin. I don't know. I was unhappy, and he paid attention to me, and it just happened. Were you going to leave me? She nodded, unable to meet my eyes. What changed your mind? Emily gestured at the envelope. His wife found out. She has evidence. Photos, videos, everything. She's threatening to make it public. I picked up the envelope and looked inside. Lisa had done her work well. The evidence was comprehensive and damning. Jesus, Em, how could you be so careless? I don't know, she said miserably. I thought we were being careful. What do you want to do? Emily looked at me like I'd asked her to solve quantum physics. I don't know. What can we do? We can try to work through this, I said. Counseling maybe, if that's what you want. Do you want that? I looked at my wife of 12 years, sitting across from me in a cafe, her makeup ruined, her perfect life falling apart around her. I want our family to stay together, I said. But I need to know that you're done with him, completely done. I am, she said quickly. It's over. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. And your job? Emily's face crumpled. I'll have to quit. I can't work there anymore, not after this. We'll figure it out, I said. We'll make it work. She reached across the table and took my hand. You're being so understanding. I don't deserve it. We all make mistakes, Em. The question is what we do next. That evening, Emily called in sick to work and spent the day on the couch, alternating between crying and staring at the ceiling. I made dinner, helped the kids with homework, and tried to act like my world hadn't just been turned upside down. At 9 o'clock, Emily's phone rang. Darren's name appeared on the screen. Don't answer it, I said. He's probably panicking, Emily said. Lisa must have confronted him too. Let him panic. You said it was over. Emily declined the call, then immediately blocked Darren's number. There, she said. It's done. But it wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next morning, Emily submitted her resignation to Pinnacle Marketing, citing personal reasons. Her boss tried to talk her out of it, offering her a leave of absence instead, but Emily insisted. I need a clean break, she told him. That afternoon, Lisa called me. How did she take it? She asked. About as well as you'd expect. She confessed everything, quit her job, blocked his number. And Darren? What about him? He's not giving up so easily. He showed up at my house this morning, demanding to know what I wanted to keep quiet about the affair. What did you tell him? I told him the same thing I told your wife. Come clean, or I'll do it for him. And he offered me money. $50,000 to keep my mouth shut and give him the evidence. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What did you say? I told him to go to hell. But Mark, I think he's going to try a different approach. What do you mean? I mean he's desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. Watch your back. That night, Emily was unusually affectionate. She cooked my favorite dinner, opened a bottle of wine, and actually seemed interested in hearing about my day. I want to make this work, she said as we cleaned up the dishes. I know I messed up, but I want to fix it. It's going to take time, I said. I know, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. She kissed me then, the first real kiss we'd shared in months. For a moment, I almost believed that we could get past this, that we could rebuild our marriage from the wreckage of her affair. Then the doorbell rang. Emily and I looked at each other, neither of us expecting visitors. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. Darren Crawford was standing on my porch, and he didn't look happy. "Stay upstairs," I told Emily. "Take the kids to their rooms and don't come down until I tell you." I waited until I heard Emily's footsteps on the stairs, then opened the door. "Mr. Crawford," I said, "this is unexpected." "We need to talk," Darren said. He was dressed in an expensive suit, but his hair was disheveled and his eyes were wild. "About your wife. I think you've said enough to my wife. Look, I know Lisa came to see you both. I know she's got photos and videos and all kinds of evidence, but there's something you need to understand." "Which is?" Darren stepped closer, and I could smell alcohol on his breath. "Your wife pursued me. She's the one who started this whole thing. She's the one who suggested the hotel meetings, who wanted to keep it secret, who talked about leaving you. Even if that's true, it doesn't matter now. It's over." "Is it?" Darren laughed bitterly. "Because she's been calling me all day, begging me to meet her one more time. Says she made a mistake. Says she wants to work things out between us." I felt the world tilt sideways. "You're lying." "Am I?" Darren pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. A series of text messages from Emily's number, sent throughout the day while she'd been sitting on our couch, supposedly devastated by the end of her affair. "I love you," one message read. "Don't let her win." Another, "Meet me tonight. Same place. We can figure this out." And the most recent, sent just an hour ago. "Mark doesn't suspect anything. He thinks it's over." I stared at the phone, reading the messages over and over, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. "She's playing you," Darren said. "Just like she played me. Your wife is not the victim here." I looked up at him, this man who had been sleeping with my wife, who had helped destroy my marriage, who was now standing on my porch trying to destroy what was left. "Get off my property," I said. "I'm trying to help you," Darren said. "She's going to take you for everything you're worth in the divorce. She's already talked to a lawyer." I said, "Get off my property." Darren held up his hands in surrender. "Fine. But when she serves you with papers next week, remember this conversation." He walked back to his car, a sleek BMW that probably cost more than I made in 2 years. As he drove away, I stood in my doorway, holding his phone with Emily's messages still on the screen. Upstairs, I could hear Emily talking to the kids, her voice bright and cheerful, playing the part of the devoted mother. I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to figure out what was real and what was lies, what was manipulation and what was truth. Then I heard Emily's footsteps on the stairs. "Who was that?" she asked, appearing in the hallway. I looked at my wife, the mother of my children, the woman I'd loved for 12 years. "Wrong house," I said. "Just someone looking for directions." Emily smiled and walked over to kiss my cheek. "I'm going to take a bath," she said. "Maybe we can watch a movie later." "Sure," I said. "That sounds nice." She headed back upstairs, and I heard the bathroom door close, heard the water start running. I pulled out my own phone and called Lisa. "We have a problem," I said when she answered. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that's about to destroy everything we've worked for." And then I told her about Darren's visit, about the text messages, about Emily's performance as the repentant wife. When I finished, Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "Well," she said finally, "I guess it's time for the nuclear option." "What's the nuclear option?" "You'll see. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., Channel 7 News. Don't miss it." The line went silent, and I stood alone in my hallway, listening to the sound of my wife's bathwater running upstairs, wondering what Lisa had planned and whether I was ready for the fallout. Outside, it started to rain again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Emily, listening to her breathe, watching the numbers on the clock change, and trying to figure out what Lisa had planned for 9 a.m. Emily seemed to sleep peacefully, which somehow made everything worse. Either she was innocent of Darren's accusations, or she was a better actress than I'd given her credit for. At 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went downstairs to make coffee. The local news was playing on the kitchen TV, the usual mix of traffic reports and weather updates. I found myself staring at the screen, waiting for 9 o'clock, like it was an execution. Emily came down at 7, already dressed for the day in jeans and a sweater. She looked rested and relaxed, more at peace than I'd seen her in months. "You're up early," she said, kissing my cheek as she reached for the coffee pot. "Couldn't sleep." "Still processing everything?" She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "I know this is a lot to take in." "Yeah, it is." Emily reached across the table and took my hand. "I meant what I said yesterday. I want to make this work. I want to rebuild what we had." "What we had," I repeated. "Do you remember what that was like?" She smiled, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married. "I remember our first apartment, that tiny place with the leaky faucet and the neighbors who played music too loud. You complained about that faucet every day for 2 years. And you kept saying you'd fix it, but you never did. I fixed it eventually. You hired a plumber." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, remembering better times. Then Emily's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it, and I saw her face change, just slightly, but enough to notice. "Work?" I asked. "My old boss. He wants me to reconsider the resignation." "What are you going to tell him?" "That I've made up my mind." Emily put the phone face down on the table. "I'm done with that life, Mark. Done with the long hours and the demanding clients and the stress. I want something simpler. We'll need to budget carefully. The mortgage, the kids' expenses. I know. I've been thinking about that. Maybe we should consider selling the house like you mentioned. Move somewhere with a lower cost of living." I studied my wife's face, looking for signs of deception. Was this genuine remorse and a desire for a fresh start? Or was she planning to take half the proceeds from the house sale and disappear? "Let's take it one step at a time," I said. "See how things go." At 8:30, I sent the kids upstairs to get ready for school and turned up the volume on the TV. Emily was loading the dishwasher, humming softly to herself. "Em," I said, "come watch the news with me for a minute." "Why?" "Just humor me." She dried her hands on a dish towel and sat down beside me on the couch. On the screen, the morning show hosts were discussing a local charity fundraiser. "What are we watching for?" Emily asked. "Nothing specific. I just like having the news on in the morning." At 8:58, the show cut to commercial. Emily started to get up, but I caught her hand. "Wait," I said. "I think there's a story coming up about the automotive industry." Emily settled back onto the couch, looking puzzled but willing to indulge me. At exactly 9 a.m., the show returned from commercial. "Good morning. I'm Jennifer Walsh with Channel 7 News," the anchor said. "We begin this morning with an exclusive investigation into allegations of fraud and embezzlement at one of our area's most prominent car dealerships." Emily went rigid beside me. "Crawford Automotive, owned by local businessman Darren Crawford, is facing serious questions about its business practices after a former employee came forward with evidence of financial impropriety." The screen showed footage of Crawford's main dealership, then cut to a photo of Darren in a tuxedo at some charity event. According to documents obtained by Channel 7, Crawford has been using company funds for personal expenses, including hotel stays, expensive dinners, and jewelry purchases. The whistleblower, who asked to remain anonymous, provided financial records showing a pattern of misuse dating back over 2 years. Emily's face was white. Her hand in mine was ice cold. The story continued for another 3 minutes, detailing the allegations and showing copies of credit card statements and receipts. The reporter mentioned that the state attorney general's office was reviewing the evidence and considering whether to open a formal investigation. Crawford was unavailable for comment, the anchor concluded, but his attorney issued a statement calling the allegations baseless and promising to vigorously defend his client's reputation. The show moved on to the weather forecast, but I kept staring at the screen. "Turn it off," Emily whispered. I looked at her. She was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. "Did you know?" I asked. "About the fraud?" "No," she said, but her voice was shaky. "I mean, there were things that seemed odd, expenses that didn't quite make sense, but I thought—" "You thought what?" "I thought he was just generous. Successful businessmen spend money differently, right?" "Emily, some of those expenses were for your hotel rooms, your dinners, your jewelry." She pulled her hand away from mine. "You think I knew he was stealing?" "I think you knew something wasn't right." Emily stood up abruptly. "I need to call my lawyer." "Your lawyer?" She was already heading for the stairs. "I could be implicated in this, Mark. If they think I knew about the fraud, if they think I was complicit—" "Were you complicit?" Emily stopped at the bottom of the stairs and turned to face me. For a moment I saw something in her eyes that I'd never seen before. Not guilt, not fear, but calculation. "I need to protect myself," she said. "And the kids." "From what?" "From whatever's coming next." She went upstairs and I heard her bedroom door close. A few minutes later, I heard her voice through the door, talking rapidly to someone on the phone. My own phone rang. "Lisa." "Did you see it?" she asked. "I saw it. How did you—" "I told you I had connections at the newspaper. Turns out they have connections at the TV station, too." "Is the fraud real?" "Oh, it's real. I've been documenting Darren's creative accounting for months. The affair evidence was just the appetizer. This is the main course." "What happens now?" "Now we wait and see how they react. Desperate people make mistakes, Mark, and your wife is about to get very desperate." Lisa was right. Over the next few hours, Emily made a series of phone calls. I couldn't hear the specifics, but her tone was urgent, almost frantic. She spoke to lawyers, to her former boss, to people whose names I didn't recognize. Around noon, she came downstairs with a suitcase. "Where are you going?" I asked. "To my sister's. Just for a few days, until this blows over." "What about the kids?" "They're better off staying here with you, away from all this." Emily kissed me goodbye, the same perfunctory peck on the cheek she'd been giving me for months. But as she reached the door, she turned back. "Mark," she said, "whatever happens, whatever you hear about me, I want you to know that I did love you. Once upon a time, I really did love you." "Once upon a time?" "People change," she said simply. "Sometimes love isn't enough." She left, and I stood in the doorway watching her drive away in her silver sedan, wondering if I'd ever see her again. That afternoon, the story got bigger. Channel 7 ran a follow-up segment with more details about the fraud allegations. Other news outlets picked up the story. By evening, Darren Crawford's name was trending on social media. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw two people in dark suits. Federal agents, I realized with a sinking feeling. "Mr. Thompson?" the woman said when I opened the door. "I'm Agent Martinez, FBI. This is Agent Chen. We'd like to ask you some questions about your wife's relationship with Darren Crawford." I let them in, and we sat in my living room while they asked about Emily's work schedule, her relationship with Darren, her knowledge of his business practices. I answered honestly, telling them about the affair, about Emily's recent confession, about her decision to quit her job. "Where is your wife now?" Agent Martinez asked. "At her sister's house. She left this morning after the news story broke." The agents exchanged glances. "Mr. Thompson," Agent Chen said, "we need to inform you that your wife is considered a person of interest in our investigation. We have evidence suggesting she may have been more involved in Mr. Crawford's activities than she's admitted. What kind of evidence? I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, but I can tell you that we've frozen several bank accounts associated with both Mr. Crawford and your wife. My stomach dropped. Bank accounts? What bank accounts? Your wife didn't tell you about the offshore account? Agent Martinez asked. The one with over $200,000 in it? I stared at them, feeling like the world was spinning out of control. No, I said. She didn't mention that. The agents asked a few more questions, then left me with their business cards and instructions to call if Emily contacted me. After they were gone, I sat in my empty house and tried to process what I'd learned. My wife hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been involved in fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. She'd been planning to leave me and take our kids to a new life funded by stolen money. I called Lisa. They came to see me too, she said when I told her about the FBI visit. Turns out our spouses were quite the criminal enterprise. Did you know about the money? I suspected. Darren's been moving money around for months, setting up accounts, making investments that didn't make sense. I thought he was just preparing for our divorce. I didn't realize Emily was in on it. What happens now? Now they run, Lisa said, and we pick up the pieces. She was right about the running part. The next morning, I woke up to find that Emily's sister had no idea where she was. Emily had never arrived at her house. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her credit cards showed no activity. By afternoon, the news was reporting that both Darren Crawford and Emily Thompson were wanted for questioning by federal authorities in connection with a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. I spent the day fielding phone calls from reporters, neighbors, and Emily's family. Everyone wanted to know what I knew, how I was holding up, whether I'd had any contact with my fugitive wife. The answer to that last question came at 6 p.m. when Emily finally called. Mark, she said, and her voice sounded different, harder. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Where are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand something. I didn't steal that money. Emily. I didn't steal it, Mark. I earned it. Do you have any idea what it's like to be married to someone who makes $30,000 a year selling office supplies? Do you know what it's like to watch your friends advance in their careers while you're stuck in the same hopeless job year after year? So you decided to commit fraud? Emily laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. I decided to take control of my life. Darren offered me an opportunity, and I took it. What about the kids? What about our family? The kids will be fine. You're a good father, Mark. Better than I am a mother, if I'm being honest. Come home, I said. We'll figure this out. Get you a lawyer, work out a plea deal. I'm not coming home, Emily said, and I'm not going to prison. I've got enough money to start over somewhere else, somewhere they'll never find me. You can't just disappear, Em. People don't just vanish in the real world. Don't they? Emily's voice was cold now. Watch me. The line went silent. That was the last time I spoke to my wife. 6 months later, Emily Thompson and Darren Crawford were still fugitives. The FBI had traced them as far as Mexico, but the trail had gone cold somewhere south of Guadalajara. The prevailing theory was that they'd used their stolen money to buy new identities and disappear into the vast network of American expats living in Central America. I'd become something of a local celebrity, the cuckolded husband whose wife had run off with her lover and a suitcase full of embezzled money. People recognized me at the grocery store, whispered about me at parent-teacher conferences, treated me with a mixture of pity and fascination. The kids were handling it better than I'd expected. Kids are resilient, and they'd adapted to life without their mother, with the kind of matter-of-fact acceptance that adults never quite manage. They asked about her sometimes, but less and less as the months went by. Lisa and I had become unlikely friends. We met for coffee every few weeks, two people bonded by betrayal and abandonment. She was handling her situation better than I was handling mine. Darren had left her with debts and legal problems, but at least she'd gotten some satisfaction from watching his business empire collapse. "Any word from the FBI?" she asked during one of our coffee meetings. "Nothing new. They think Emily and Darren are somewhere in South America, but they could be anywhere by now." "Do you miss her?" It was a question Lisa asked periodically, and I never quite knew how to answer it. "I miss the person I thought she was," I said finally. "But that person never really existed, did she?" "Maybe she did once upon a time. People change." That's what Emily said when she left. People change. Sometimes love isn't enough. Lisa stirred sugar into her coffee. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" "No," I said. "I think they're gone for good." And I was right mostly. Emily and Darren never came back to our small Midwestern city, but they didn't disappear forever either. 2 years after they'd fled, I was watching the evening news when I saw a familiar face on the screen. Emily, looking tan and relaxed, her hair shorter and lighter than I remembered. She was being led away from a beachfront restaurant in handcuffs. The reporter explained that Emily Thompson and Darren Crawford had been arrested in Costa Rica on charges of money laundering and fraud. They'd been living under assumed names, running a small resort on the Pacific coast. Their downfall had come when Darren, apparently unable to resist his old habits, had started skimming money from their business partners. "Some people never learn," I said to the empty living room. The extradition process took another year. When Emily finally returned to the United States, she looked older, harder, nothing like the woman I'd married. The trial was a media circus, with reporters and cameras following every development. I attended some of the proceedings, sitting in the back of the courtroom, watching my ex-wife — the divorce had been finalized while she was a fugitive — answer questions about offshore accounts and money transfers and criminal conspiracies. She never looked at me, never acknowledged my presence. To her, I suppose, I was just another part of the life she'd left behind. Emily was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Darren got 12. They'd both agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for reduced sentences, which meant they'd testified against each other, each trying to minimize their own role in the crimes. After the sentencing, reporters cornered me outside the courthouse. "How do you feel about your ex-wife's sentence?" one of them asked. "I feel like justice was served," I said. "Do you have any message for her?" I thought about that for a moment. After everything that had happened, the betrayal, the lies, the fraud, the abandonment of our children, what was there left to say? "I hope she finds whatever she was looking for," I said, finally. And I meant it. Emily had destroyed our marriage, abandoned our children, and committed serious crimes, all in pursuit of something she thought she needed: money, excitement, a different life. I hoped that whatever she'd been searching for had been worth the price she'd paid. The reporters seemed disappointed by my response. They'd probably been hoping for anger, bitterness, calls for harsher punishment. But I was done being angry. Anger was exhausting, and I had 2 kids to raise and a life to rebuild. Lisa was waiting for me by my car when I left the courthouse. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Relieved," I said. "It's finally over." "Is it, though? She'll be out in 6 years with good behavior." "Maybe, but that's 6 years from now. A lot can change in 6 years. Lisa nodded. "The kids are lucky to have you." "We're all lucky to have survived this," I said. That evening, I sat down with my children and explained that their mother would be in prison for a long time. They took the news with the same calm acceptance they'd shown throughout the whole ordeal. They'd already grieved for the mother who'd left them. The woman in prison was a stranger. "Are you okay, Dad?" my daughter asked. "I'm okay," I said, and realized I meant it. We're all going to be okay. And we were. Life went on. I got a promotion at work, the kids excelled in school, we moved to a smaller house in a better neighborhood. I started dating again, eventually. Nothing serious, just dinner and movies, with women who didn't ask too many questions about my past. The story of Emily and Darren's crimes faded from the news cycle, replaced by fresher scandals and newer outrages. People stopped recognizing me at the grocery store. The kids stopped being the ones whose mother ran away with all that money and just became regular kids again. 5 years after Emily's sentencing, I received a letter from the federal prison where she was incarcerated. It was the first contact I'd had from her since that phone call when she'd told me she was never coming home. The letter was short. Mark, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, and I'm not asking for it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Sorry for the lies. Sorry for the betrayal. Sorry for abandoning you and the kids. I was selfish and stupid, and I hurt the people I should have protected. You deserved better. The kids deserved better. I hope you found happiness. Emily. I read the letter twice, then put it in a drawer with all the other documents from that chapter of my life. Legal papers, news clippings, FBI business cards, reminders of a time when my world had fallen apart and I'd had to build it back up from scratch. My daughter found the letter a few weeks later while looking for a pen. Is this from Mom? She asked. Yes. Are you going to write back? I thought about it. Emily would be eligible for parole in another year. She'd probably serve her full sentence, but there was always a chance she'd get out early. Did I want to open that door? Did I want to risk letting her back into our lives, even in some small way? No, I said finally. I don't think so. Good, my daughter said. We don't need her anymore. And she was right. We didn't need Emily anymore. We'd learned to live without her, to be happy without her, to be a family without her. Whatever apology she wanted to offer, whatever explanation she thought would make things right, it was too little and too late. I took the letter and threw it away. 6 months later, I married Sarah Mitchell, a teacher I'd met at a school fundraiser. She was kind and funny and completely unimpressed by my minor celebrity status as the man whose wife had run off with embezzled money. The kids loved her, and she loved them back without reservation or condition. On our wedding day, as I stood at the altar watching Sarah walk down the aisle in her simple white dress, I thought about Emily for the last time. She was still in prison, still paying for her crimes, still living with the consequences of her choices. I hoped she'd found whatever peace was available to her. But more than that, I hoped I'd never have to think about her again. Sarah reached the altar and took my hand, smiling up at me with eyes full of love and promise and hope for the future. Ready? She whispered. Ready, I said, and I was. Ready for a new life, a new love, a new chance at happiness. Ready to leave the past behind and embrace whatever came next. The ceremony began, and I focused on the woman beside me, the children watching from the front row, the friends and family who'd supported us through everything. Emily Thompson, the woman who'd once been my wife, who'd betrayed me and abandoned our children and stolen money and run away to Costa Rica, was finally and completely in the past. Where she belonged,